Welcome to class. I'll give you all a moment to settle in. Find your seats. I, as always, am Professor Slimesworth. So the reason that I wanted to make fun of PragerU today, I'm responding to a PragerU video tomorrow. I was looking through their oeuvre, and it's just I could not get to all of them. There's just so many videos, and they're all so bad, and not in a way that requires a lot of thought to debunk. So I thought that would be a fun, easy thing to do.
Why does your electricity bill keep going up when the cost of producing electricity keeps going down?
Why?
Because almost all the money Americans should have saved, and we're talking serious money, went to subsidize renewable energy.
Of course. The problem is these billions of dollars the government is spending on renewable energy. That's the problem. If you look at the world right now, the big problem is that the government is spending way too much money on renewable energy. And it has nothing to do with the fact that their money comes from oil billionaires. That's just the way that it is. If you look at the numbers in an unbiased way, that's what you'll find.
It turns out, are more expensive than advertised. Perhaps if renewable energy was what made our air cleaner or what caused the dramatic reductions in CO2 over the last decade, you could say it was worth it.
I'm sorry, but no one advocates for green energy on the basis that it makes air cleaner. That's not the point. It's that if we don't use that, we end up using something that makes the air dirtier. So in a roundabout sense, you could say it makes the air cleaner. It's cleaner than the alternative, surely. I'm sorry. You see the trick he pulled there, right? He's saying that we're not getting cleaner air from it because it doesn't clean the air. It also doesn't pollute the air, as opposed to the alternative. If your options are something which doesn't clean the air but also doesn't cause the pollution in the first place, or something that does, obviously the thing that doesn't cause the pollution is the thing to go with.
The question becomes even sharper if we take a close look at your electricity bill.
How did this guy find my electricity bill? How is he able to look at my electricity bill? That's a violation of my privacy.
Fossil-fueled electricity is inexpensive, and the fuel can be stored or sourced on site. The electricity is there when you need it.
Gee, that sounds amazing. Is there any kind of drawback that maybe makes that not an ideal solution? Is there maybe something about it that's dangerous or causing the planet to die?
In contrast, wind and solar generate electricity based on the mood of Mother Nature. This is known as the intermittency problem.
And Mother Nature's in a really bad mood because she's being murdered.
For every wind and solar farm you build, you need a fossil fuel facility nearby to supply electricity on demand.
Let's start on the premise that is true. And I suspect there's some truth to what he's saying. But if you have to use a fossil fuel plant to run a solar power plant, you're still getting the electricity from the solar power plant that cuts out an equivalent amount of energy from the fossil fuel plant, right? So you're still saving fossil fuel emissions. It's still better to do it that way.
Most taxes are plainly stated on your power bill. State taxes, city and county taxes, plus a bewildering assortment of fees. Those are bad enough.
Is great. This is great. Look at the fees. They're just nonsense. This one's swearing. The fees are swearing at you.
Federal subsidies alone for the wind and solar industries totaled more than $70 billion from 2010 to 2019. Most state governments...
Boy, I wonder how much incentives were for oil and gas industries. I wonder if they got any subsidies. Because if not, one of the things I might do in this section, because I'm thinking like a video maker here now, right? And I'm thinking if I wanted to make the argument that oil and gas is better because you don't got to do the subsidies, I might throw that little fact in if there's no subsidies for oil and gas. I might say, they didn't get any subsidies, so what's the deal? But he didn't say that. Pretty strange, right? Kind of makes you think maybe they got an equivalent amount of subsidies. And maybe natural power sources like solar and wind probably should get more subsidies because we need to develop the tech to fix the gap that you're talking about in your fucking video. The whole point of this video is the technology is just not there yet. Okay, well that costs money to develop and we need to spend that money because if we don't, then the planet is fucked.
An electricity bill is a regressive expense, meaning it takes up a lot bigger chunk of the budget of a lower middle class family than it does an upper middle class.
Oh, fuck right off, Prager University. Fuck right off. Because A, rich people are going to use more electricity. And B, this doesn't seem to matter to you when you're arguing for a flat tax system, does it? But it's an electricity bill and the money goes to your competition instead of to the people that are funding your videos, suddenly regressive fees and taxes, that's a problem then.
Many poor families devote more than 10% of their income after food, rent, and transportation to electricity, while those further up the income
10% of their income after food and rent. So like, not 10% of their income then. Like, a considerably smaller portion of their income.
Yes, the wind and the sun are free, but wind and solar power are anything but. I'm Charles McConnell.
No, it's free. It's still free.
Assistant Secretary of Energy in the Obama administration.
Ooh, that's like a punch in the gut right there. This guy was the former Assistant Secretary of Energy in the Obama administration? No wonder the world is the way that it is.
You've heard a lot about big oil, big pharma, big tech, and all the other big bad players out there.
I've heard a lot about
I want to talk to you about the biggest, baddest one of them all.
Bigger than big tech. Did he say big oil? I have to see if he said that, if he's now going to claim that big green is bigger than big oil.
You've heard a lot about big oil, big pharma.
It's the
big
first
tech,
one!
And all the other big bad players out there.
The environmental movement is a bigger moneyed interest than big oil, than big tech. Just drink it in. Drink it in.
Just most powerful big in the world right now. Nothing.
It's the most powerful big.
You see, Big Green wants to take over your life. It has to.
Fine, let them. They do a better job with it than I'm doing with it.
This makes perfect sense. Big Green, after all, intends to save the planet from oblivion. Your freedom would seem to be a small price to pay. To accomplish its mission, Big Green needs two things.
I mean, I don't believe that Big Green is trying to take our freedom. But yeah, dog, if the world dies, I'm also not free. Like, if you're setting up the hypothetical that they're taking away your freedom in order to save the planet, then, like, that's still better. Because if the planet is saved at some point, maybe I could get my freedom back later. Once again, I don't accept that premise. Obviously, the green movement, Big Green, is not taking away my freedom. But it would be better to lose the freedom and save the Earth than die. Everyone dies. Than oblivion, in your words.
The climate is changing.
Mm-hmm.
It appears, though we can't be sure, to be slowly warming.
Oh, we got to throw that in. We can't be sure.
But Big Green has no interest in being reasonable. Reasonable doesn't get you money.
I'm dizzy with the way the words are flying at me. I don't know how people deal with it.
Economic models, the Paris Climate Accord will cost the world $1 to $2 trillion every year. Total cost for the Green New Deal, $52 trillion minimum. But money is only a means to an end.
It's a quick question. How much money is there on Earth? Like, how much is all of money? Because that's how much we would lose if we don't do something about climate change. So there's really no amount of money that's too much.
Here's how Shoykat Chakrabarty, the architect of the Green New Deal, described it to the Washington Post. It wasn't originally a climate thing at all. We really think of it as a how do you change the entire economy thing.
Just because it was designed to change the economy, because you'll notice that in this little snippet that he read, he said, it didn't start that way. Presumably the next sentence would be, but then we realized we had to do this.
Millions of birds, including endangered ones, dying, sliced to pieces by wind turbines. Yet in the midst of all the planet is burning,
the wind is slicing up the bird.
Sea levels rising, build taller and better seawalls.
Around all land? Just put a little ledge around everywhere, and then you're good. How hard could that be? It certainly wouldn't cost as much as the couple billion you were complaining about earlier.
That's what the Netherlands did. A good chunk of the country, including its international airport, is below sea level.
Something being below sea level does not mean necessarily that they built a retaining wall to keep the sea out. Like, it could be a valley, you know?
Israel has more water than it needs, and it's in the middle of a desert.
Well, that could be partially because they're withholding it from some other people.
None of these simple, practical solutions makes much of an impact on big green.
Simple, practical solutions like building a wall around every continent. How hard could it be? It's only going up a couple feet. It's only got to be a little. People might trip over it. That's one danger. But you just got to build a wall around all of the continents. And you're good. For that matter, we could make the continents taller. Who is this guy?
I'm Rogan O'Hanley, aka DC Drano, for Prager University. Thank you for watching this video.
Well, there's anti-white supremacy. That I like. Oh, look at this. Look at this. Sources telling me AOC has recently been diagnosed with diabetes. Can you name one country that taxes their people and sends money to America? How come we're sending money to all these poor countries and none of them are sending money back? The only way this transaction makes sense is if we send them some of our money and then they send us some of their money. I don't know if this is his official account. His doesn't seem to be verified, but the idea of someone on Instagram just posting Instagram posts of their tweets is so incredible. If you want to open our borders before opening our small businesses, you might be a globalist. Oh, and this anti-white supremacy guy is tweeting, and I can never pronounce this guy's name, Jack Proboscis. Jack Pusobean. Jack Pogo Stick. I don't know how to pronounce his name. I'm sorry.
I was horrified by what happened to Mr. George Floyd, but I was also horrified about what was happening to my adopted country, my beloved America.
What happened to it?
And I just couldn't take it anymore.
Maybe I'm misremembering, but I feel like America has survived.
When I hear people talk about corruption and civil rights abuses here in the US, I shake my head. They never lived in Cameroon.
So, and I don't want to make light of whatever it is that she faced in Cameroon, but your argument here is essentially that because it's not as bad as this other country, it is therefore the best country in the world?
Since coming to the United States, I have trained in nursing and worked as a visiting nurse assistant. Recently, I received my master's in healthcare administration, and I am now working as a healthcare executive.
You know, there are nurses in other countries.
My career ambition is to close the gap in healthcare outcomes and design new and better strategies to ensure that underserved populations get the healthcare services they need.
Oh, you know what's weird actually is in a lot of countries, one of the things they do that doesn't happen in America is one of the things they do. For example, Canada is the closest country to the United States, Mexico as well, but is what we do. And this is the thing that actually a lot of countries that have even a little bit of money do, is we give healthcare to everyone. So first, step one, if you wanted to get healthcare to underserved populations, is you should stop charging for it. Because one thing that underserved populations tend to have in common is that they tend to have less money. And so it's harder for them to get healthcare if they have to give money because they don't have it. That's my tip. One of the reasons I would say actually that America is not the best country in the world.
Mr. Floyd should not have died as he did. But make no mistakes, Black Lives Matter and the
Mr. Floyd should not have died the way that he did. But
allies are using George Floyd's death to split Americans apart at the very moment we should be coming together.
Yeah, at the very moment we should be coming together, because now is the time to come together. Before it wasn't good to come together. Now it is. And Black Lives Matter, let me tell you, they're splitting people apart because they're sowing division between people that care about whether or not police murder innocent Black people and people that don't. And those two groups should be natural allies. And they were until these protesters came along and started complaining, oh no, people are getting murdered. Try living in a different country sometime, buddy.
These protests are not about empowering Black people. They are about
they're about keeping Black people from being murdered. That's not really empowering so much as it's like protecting. Protecting might be a better word.
Every week in Chicago, New York, Baltimore, Washington, D.C., Black criminals kill Black men, women, and children.
Whoa! That escalated quickly. Whoa! Yeah. A check, please.
Where are the protests for them? Why do we only get angry when a white police officer kills a Black man?
Well, because you can't have a protest against murder, right? The government doesn't control if murder happens, but they do control what the police do. So it makes sense to protest that. It wouldn't make sense to just protest that murders in general happen.
To get to America. I love it too much to stand aside and watch it be torn apart. Stand with me. I'm not oppressed. I'm not a victim. I am a free American. I'm Nestra Yumga, her Prager University.
Okay, so you're not oppressed or a victim, but I would argue, and I'm sorry if this is maybe not a delicate way to put it, but if someone is killed by a police officer, I would argue that person has been victimized. I don't want to take agency away from them, but they already don't have agency because they're dead. Oh, hold on. This one, there's no noise or there's no speaking. The United States has labeled Antifa a terrorist group. Antifa has a history of violently attacking conservatives and liberals. Is that who they have a history of attacking? Is that the first group you think of? Antifa's goal is to create chaos, followed by anarchy. Actually, they're half right. In truth, the destruction of America is their aim. Yeah, but that's the same thing. In order to create anarchy, one would have to destroy America. Just like you'd have to destroy America to do anything worth doing. Antifa claims to fight fascism, but its roots and tactics are deeply fascist. The group was once affiliated with the Communist Party of Germany. That's your evidence. That's your evidence that they're fascist, is that they were affiliated with the Communist Party, the enemy of fascists. Antifa members tend to be young and unemployed anarchists with a fondness for Marxism and communism. That one's true, actually. They got that one right. They have been showing up to cause violence, destruction, as well as mayhem, among other things. They have been showing up to Showing up where? That's just sloppy. Am I wrong? Like, isn't that just a wild sentence? They've been showing up to cause violence, destruction, and what do you mean showing up? They repeatedly commit violent acts against innocent people, like in this video clip, where they're not doing that. They're instead burning a flag, which is covered under the First Amendment. But I would say, actually, that the people that they tend to commit most of the violent acts toward tend to be
showing up at neo-Nazi rallies.
They tend to be fascists. So who are the real fascists? Well, I mean, I don't know. I'm not a scholar of fascism, like to find people at PragerU. But when you look at a situation where you got some people, they're chanting, Jews will not replace us, and they got a bunch of Nazi flags and Nazi tattoos, and a bunch of their friends are Nazis, and they call themselves fascists, and they're fascists, those are the ones. And punching them, being anti-fascist would necessarily mean being against those people. No like examples, just like, oh, they commit violent acts and they're always going around beating up innocent people. Anyway, moving on. Like, they could have at least trotted out some bullshit examples, and I don't know, it's real lazy.
Is this an awards show? Why are you tuxed up so nicely, slime fellow?
Because I'm a professor. We're at school. This is university. So I'm dressed up like a big nerd. These are my real glasses, by the way, which is very funny because whenever Spirit Halloween is in town, they sell an accessory called nerd glasses that are like, if you want to dress up as a nerd for Halloween, cool costume. And they look exactly like this. They're like exactly the same, but these are prescription. Okay. What was the one that I said? Who's more radical, the left or the right? I must know.
On the left, there are people who believe a man can get pregnant, that the world is going to end.
Of course a man can get pregnant. It's pretty straightforward. A trans man with a uterus has sex with someone that has spermatozoa, and there's a baby. I win.
In a decade if we don't cap carbon emissions.
No, that's actually a misrepresentation, and I've actually added to this by like phrasing it this way. It's not that the world is going to end in a decade if we don't cap carbon emissions. It's that within a decade, if we don't and it's not capping carbon emissions, it's actually taking carbon out of the atmosphere. We have to take thousands of tons of it out of the atmosphere. If we don't do that within a decade, it creates a feedback loop which makes the world end. But it's not going to end in 10 years.
On the right, there are people who deny the Holocaust happened, who believe that whites are inherently superior to other races, that no one should pay taxes. But there's an important difference between these two extremes. The crazies on the right have no voice. They are shunned. They live mostly on the far fringes of the internet. The crazies on the left have a loud voice. They are celebrated. They live in the halls of Congress, in state legislatures, and in governors' mansions.
And also, all of the things they believe are fairly mainstream.
Cancel Halloween shop.
Completely uncontroversial, matter-of-fact things. Like, yeah, there's some people on the left that think the sky is blue and that a hot dog is a sandwich. Wild. What's going on? And then there's some people on the right that think the white race is inherently superior. They don't have a lot of power. They're arguing who's more radical, the left or the right. I thought for the life of me that their position was going to be the right is more radical and that's a good thing. But it appears that they're going with the idea that because the right's fringes are not represented by the halls of power, that makes them less radical. But that is the definition of the word radical.
What would America look like if the left got everything it wanted? And what would America look like if the right got everything it wanted?
So if the left got everything it wanted, and assuming we're talking about the actual left, not like, Nancy Pelosi or whatever, there would be no America. And if the right got what they wanted, there would also be no America, but just because they fucked everything up, not intentionally.
Let's start with the left. Taxes would go up on individuals and corporations to pay for more social programs.
Yeah, so, okay. Individuals and corporations. Which individuals in particular would the taxes go up on?
Everything from universal childcare to free college tuition.
Oh no!
Many on the left call for income taxes as high as 70%.
For whom?
Private health insurance would be abolished. The government would provide all healthcare services.
Help!
Everyone in the medical field, from doctors, nurses, and administrators, would be government employees.
Please tell me who can save me from this nightmare.
Americans would pay for this government healthcare through much higher taxes. Illegal immigration would be decriminalized. It would still be illegal to enter the country without proper documentation, but no one who made it into the U.S. would be prosecuted for doing so.
Oh no!
Legal immigrants would all...
This is... Okay, so in the nightmare hell world he is proposing, the way that he visually depicts that is by having this family in the back of a rickety-ass truck. The barbed wire is taken out of the way. Oh no! A world, imagine this horrible world without any barbed wire.
Do you have
Reparations would be paid for the past injustice of slavery. How it would be paid and exactly to whom is not clear.
Exactly to whom is unclear. Actually, dog, I think we know who it would go to. I think we have a pretty clear idea who the money would go to.
College debt would be canceled. Those who had already paid for college would get nothing. Transgender...
Well, do you think the left wants it so that people who've already paid for college get nothing? But also, okay, look.
I got the money.
It's like, you see someone with a free hot dog, you're like, but I bought a hot dog yesterday.
You're threatening us with a good time.
Gender women, biological men who identify as women,
Fuck you.
would be allowed to compete against women in sports.
Where they have no demonstrable advantage. Yeah.
America's military budget would be slashed by 25 to 50%.
That would still make it by a factor of 10 the biggest military budget on Earth.
Speech codes would be enforced throughout American life. And that's just a partial list.
What fucking leftist have you, leftist or liberal for that matter, have you ever heard advocate for a speech code? Ever?
Now let's ask what would happen if the right got what it wanted. Income taxes would be cut. Capital gains taxes.
So, when he was talking about the left and the right, like he was talking about like the lunatic left, the ones who are going out there, they got all these radical ideas. And then with the right, he's like, well, if the right got their way, income tax would be cut. You said that the radical opinion among the right is that taxes would be abolished. Nobody would pay taxes. So that should be your scenario. That should be the thing. If America swings to the right, that should be what you're discussing. But you have to hedge your bets. You have to talk about, well, actually taxes would get cut. They wouldn't be abolished. So it would actually be pretty cool.
And those cuts would be made permanent. All regulations that make doing business unnecessarily difficult and don't protect public health would be repealed.
I'm sorry, but in the left-wing one, they're like, free college, free healthcare, free schooling, you know, like, and that's like, oh no. And this one, it's like, doing business is going to be easier. What do you think the average person cares more about? Like, the average person doesn't run a business. They don't give a shit. They work for a business. They don't care if there's red tape in the way. Who fucking cares? They want to get like a college education. They don't want to be bogged down with student loans. They want to be able to get health care. Like, these are not equivalent promises.
The issue of abortion would be sent back to the states for each state to decide its own abortion rule.
Oh, and look how many of them said no. You know, the state should be allowed to decide. The state should have the right to decide, not the human being in question. The state should get to decide it. That's liberty, ladies and gentlemen.
The border with Mexico would be secured. The only way to enter the United States would be through designated border crossings.
Again, in their wild fantasy, it's like this Orwellian like border with like fucking like security cameras and like two guys with their arms folded across their chests like they're angry at you. Like you could have just drawn it like them smiling and like a happy Mexican family walking into the States, handing some papers and like, you know. But no, they have to like show that what we really want is for it to be scary and difficult for other people.
In order to qualify for welfare assistance, you would have to prove you could not work.
So, you're telling me in the world where the right gets everything they want, there's still a welfare state? It's just like with more means testing? Bullshit.
The healthcare system would be open to free market reforms. For example, insurance companies could sell policies across state lines. Students in elementary school
Why is that
would
good?
recite the Pledge of Allegiance at the start of each school day.
How is that not? So the left is going to enforce a speech code, but if the right gets in power, we're going to make these children pledge allegiance.
So what can we conclude from our experiment? It's not hard to figure out. If the right got everything it wanted, the government would get much smaller. The citizen would have more freedom. If the left
What? No, that does not follow from anything that you said.
got everything it wanted, the government would get much bigger. The citizen
Not
would have
really.
less freedom. You're not radical if you want America to be what it's always been, committed to individual liberty. You're only radical if you want to fundamentally transform America into something it's never been. Which country do you want to live in?
The one with all the cool stuff. The one where you said I could get a bunch of free stuff. That sounds tight as hell.
I'm Will Witt for Prager University. Thank you for watching this video. To keep PragerU videos free, please consider making a tax-deductible donation.
Who is Will Witt? Let's find out. Let's find out who this haircut is. Let's look behind the haircut. Oh, he's shirtless with a doggo. He's got a nice little Tinder picture. PragerU, Instagram, and Snapchat. What a cool description. Not to brag or anything, but I've been on PragerU and Snapchat.
I got the money.
He's retweeting Jack Probiotic as well. See, I got there. I did it. I told you I would. There is no apolitical classroom.
Do you know what's going on in your kid's school? If not, now would be a good time to take a look. Here's what you're likely to find.
How little of an attention span do you assume your audience has that you have to animate each and every word of what you're saying? You can't just like animate a sentence. Like the sentence can't like spin onto screen and then it, you know, there it is, you can read it. No, each word as they're saying it has to like pop in like a bubble.
It is to awaken students to the fact that they live in a country that has been, remains, and will probably always be racist.
Now, I don't think that that is the purpose of public education, but I think that if you're going to teach history, and I think if you're going to teach people useful information that contextualizes the world they find themselves in, an education is kind of incomplete in America without that. Yes.
At a time of obscene inequities, merely trying to compensate is not enough. AASA's work must go further and become actively anti-racist.
I got the money.
No! They highlighted actively anti-racist. Like it's, what? Huh? They said that? What a damning quote he's found.
Being anti-racist sounds simple and laudable. Treat everyone the same. A version of the golden rule.
Well, no, I don't think being anti-racist means to treat everyone the same, because some people are not the victims of racism, right? Like me, for example. I'm a good example of that. Everywhere I go, I never face racism. It's pretty sweet. So if you treated everybody like you treated me, then you'd be ignoring the racism that they suffer.
That's not what the educational elite means by anti-racism. Anti-racism, in its current formulation, does not mean equal treatment of others.
Nor should it.
It is an all-encompassing ideology that demands that white people accept that their behavior is either implicitly or explicitly racist, and has been for at least 400 years.
Yeah, no shit. But like, the way that you're phrasing it, it's like, it's not that all of white people's behavior is explicitly or implicitly racist. Like, if I wake up in the morning and I make myself some oatmeal, I'm not doing a racism by doing that. But there are attitudes that people grow up with in society, and there's preconceptions they have about people of other races that they might not be able to confront. But you don't have to be an actual racist, like a bigoted, evil person, to have an implicit racial bias. It's actually kind of the opposite of the white guilt narrative that they try and force down your throats.
And if this accusation upsets you, that's proof of your white fragility.
Okay, but like, is this happening in schools? Are teachers like going to the white students and saying, "Excuse me, Billy, are you racist?" And he's like, "I don't think so." And the teacher's like, "Aren't you though?" I don't think that anyone is, and maybe I'm wrong about this, but like, I don't think that anyone is like completely racist in that like everyone has other qualities, right? You are not just a racist. You can be like a racist and a math teacher. You can be a racist and an astronaut or something, you know? But like, everybody has racist ideas, and everybody occasionally does racist things, because in a culture of white supremacy, you just absorb shit. It's not, no one's saying that you're like an evil person who's being deliberately bigoted. That's not what people are. Anyway.
There is no not racist. There is only racist and anti-racist. Your silence favors the status quo and the violently oppressive harm it does to black and brown folk everywhere.
Again, there is nothing damning about this quote. It is such a straightforward quote. It's basically saying the old adage about like, all that is required for evil to flourish in the world is for good men to do nothing. It's the same thing. If you're simply not racist and not actively anti-racist, then you're simply allowing racism to happen, through inaction.
What Kendi is saying is, if you don't voice active agreement with him, you are a racist.
No, I don't think that's what he's saying, actually. I think actually, if unless the thing you disagree with him about is whether or not black people are equals.
I understand how wrong this might sound. It turns the Martin Luther King concept of racial equality At the height of the recent urban unrest, Germain wrote that arsonists should serve as a model for teachers. Educators, what are you burning?
Based.
Your white-centered curriculum? The school's racist policies? Your racist-ass principal? The funding for police and schools versus counselors? What are you burning?
See, like, okay, but like, she's clearly speaking in analogy. You know how I know that is because you can't burn funding. It's not a thing you can touch and hold and burn. She's clearly speaking in analogy. She's saying, what are you getting rid of? What are you stopping? And all of those things are things that should be gotten rid of. We should be getting rid of white-centered curriculum, schools' racist policies, racist principles, the funding for police and schools versus counselors. All of those things should be done away with. What she's saying is completely non-controversial.
Germain's call to commit arson may have been metaphorical, but her
May have been. No, I think she literally meant to burn down the concept of funding police and schools. You have to do that literally.
For their part, the National Committee on Social Studies has promised to flood our children with countermessages until there is no racial inequality in economic opportunity, no racial inequality in education, no racial inequality in incarceration rates, and no brutality from police and others.
Well, clearly something must be done.
New York State now encourages teachers to incorporate current events, even if they are controversial, into instruction. and to utilize tools that encourage students to engage with difficult topics, power, privilege, access, inequity, constructively. We might all wish that as cultural and political polarization reaches...
You're not even going to explain why that's bad. You're just going to move on. Oh, these guys are talking about things that are happening. Teachers informing our children about events in the world. What is our education system come to?
Schools could remain an apolitical oasis where children can learn to read, write, and develop skills of socialization.
The title of this video is There is no apolitical classroom. So what they mean by that is that there is no apolitical classroom anymore, but there should be.
Anti-racist educators recognize that schools today are doing exactly what they were built to do in this country: exclude, silence, erase, promote white supremacy. An anti-racist approach to schooling could very well mean an ending to schools as we know them.
Based.
That is certainly true.
The person who said that was saying it based on the idea that schools are rooted in all of those horrible things: oppression, white supremacy. If you wanted to debate that point, you should then demonstrate why schools are not based around oppression and white supremacy. Otherwise, ending schools as we know them is self-evidently the right thing to do.
I'm Max Eden, Senior Fellow at the Manhattan Institute.
You know what's interesting is if you look at him from the eyes up, he's Tim Pool. It's only from the eyes down that it becomes not Tim Pool. Isn't that interesting? If you had to guess how many videos the Quartering has made about Gina Carano, how many do you think it is? I'll give you a minute. I'll give you a minute to make your guess. Lock it in your head. How many you think it is? Everybody got, I see a lot of numbers. And the answer, in case you were curious, is 16. He's made 16 videos about her. You can see, there's one, another one. There's her, yeah. And you can see it just keeps going. It just keeps going. It ends about here. That's almost 4 videos a month about this one woman who is very upset that they fired because she compared being a Republican to like being a Jew in the Holocaust. As you can see here, this is the controversial Instagram post that cost this woman her job. By the way, I've never seen the Metachlorine, so I don't know anything about her character. I don't watch that show because I can't fucking stand Baby Yoda. I want to strangle him. I don't want to look at him all the time, so I don't watch that show. I don't know nothing about it. I don't give a shit. I got no dog in this fight. This is her comparing being a Republican in today's political climate, where everybody's so intolerant to them just because they keep doing racist shit, to being a Jew in the Holocaust. It's the same thing. So this isn't the first time this woman has caused controversy. In addition to this, she came out against wearing masks, and she implied that Joe Biden stole the election in the United States. And she did something transphobic, but like, fucking, what conservative didn't? I don't know what it is that she did. You call Baby Yoda a ghoulie again, you're banned from my chat. I don't stand for that type of hate speech. How can you hate a child? He's not a child, okay? It's a fictional character designed to trick you into spending $29.99. And it worked, because here you are defending him in my chat. Baby Yoda's a monster. I will destroy him. If they ever let me on the set of that show, I can and will kill Baby Yoda. We're gonna watch the Quartering having a very normal day, responding to the situation with Gina Carano. Am I pronouncing her name right, by the way? This is his channel logo. The Quartering. News, beards, and spicy memes. So there's a lot of them. I don't know if I want to watch them all in order, or all of them for that matter. I would like to start with the most recent controversy. Oh, also, here's him coming to the defense of Joss Whedon. So you know He likes being on the right side of arguments.
I don't really understand what these losers want. They want more women in film. They want more representation, but they continue to prove that they only want representation of women that think the exact same way that they do. And today...
Now, I've talked about this in the past, and I'll address the incredibly vile thing he just said. But what sticks out to me is I've addressed this in the past. I feel like in a dark, like Jeremy is like the dark energy equivalent of me. Like he's everything about me twisted and turned vile. You'll notice his hat. It says "Welcome to Camp Crystal Lake," and that's, of course, as we all know, the place where Jason Voorhees, the famous lake murderer, comes from. He has a bunch of Friday the 13th clothing. I wear almost exclusively t-shirts with Freddy Krueger on them. But all of that notwithstanding, they want representation, but also it's like if someone says a bunch of anti-Semitic shit, people get angry. I don't think that's a difficult concept.
Number one on trending in some areas is #fire Gina Carano. She literally is not allowed to post anything on social media without being completely harassed and demanded to be fired. This is...
What is... She's not allowed to? That's a really weird way to put that. Nobody has any power to stop her.
All the evidence you ever will need that these people don't care about women, they don't care about mental health, they don't care about speaking out against dogpiling, they don't care about speaking out against cancel culture. They are toxic. They are...
Okay, but those aren't the people that are speaking out against cancel culture. That's you guys. You guys are the ones that are claiming that anyone who criticizes a public figure is the one doing cancel culture. So of course they're not speaking up against it. And also it's going to hurt her mental health to get criticized on the internet. She can not go on social media and continue being a rich celebrity, in her big house full of money.
Are the most unhappy people on the planet. I'd like you to, if you used...
Let's compare. Who seems happier right now? Jeremy or I? Who seems like they're in a better mood?
Twitter, tweet this video out using the hashtag #WeLoveCaraDune, #WeLoveGina Carano. Let's cancel out this trend. Get it trending over it. It's so...
That's activism, everybody. Get this hashtag trending about how we like the actress that said the anti-Semitic stuff. Because otherwise, they're going to make me think about politics when I go to watch Star Wars.
Sickening that this woman cannot have an opinion without these losers demanding her firing, and Twitter...
What's the opinion?
Being complicit, because...
This is the opinion, by the way. He cuts to Twitter. This is the opinion she's in trouble with. Just because he doesn't seem to want to show it for some reason. But here it is. It's her saying that her suffering for being a Republican is the equivalent of Jews in the Holocaust, which is a fucked up thing to say. Pretty disrespectful.
Again, remember that the trending box is something that Twitter manually curates. Actor and MMA...
I don't think that's true, Doug. I don't think it does. They might put stuff in there, but there's tons of shit that goes on without Twitter themselves deciding this is the thing we're going to put in the trending box. It's tailored to what you've searched for and tailored to where you are. Unless Twitter has someone in every region who's manually approving every hashtag to go into the trending page. Do you think, hey, did Hitler approve #KidHitler? Is that a Twitter orig?
Mixed martial artist Gina Carano is facing backlash for social media posts appearing to equate the persecution of Jewish folks during WW2 to experiencing hostility for sharing political views.
Yes, I agree that he's very right to air quote the word appearing there, because she didn't appear to do that. She quite obviously did it. Here's the post. I will read it to you. Jews were beaten in the streets not by Nazi soldiers, but by their neighbors, even by children. First of all, by both. Nazi soldiers definitely beat Jewish people. Sad face. Because history is edited, most people today don't realize that to get to the point where Nazi soldiers could easily round up thousands of Jews, the government first made their own neighbors hate them simply for being Jews. I would argue that that is anti-Semitic apologia. I don't think that it was the government that made people hate Jews in 1930s Germany. I would say that the Holocaust is more of an outgrowth of European anti-Semitism rather than the cause of it. How is that any different from hating someone for their political views? Well, one, I don't see any Republicans being dragged out into the street and beaten. I don't see anyone making calls to round up Republicans and put them in camps. I see a few very far-right people making arguments like that about people like me. I don't personally think that that's equivalent to anti-Semitism in the 30s because they lack the institutional support to do it so far.
Now, while this may be an extreme opinion, Tim Young points out exactly this. The people wanting Gina Carano fired, tweeting hashtag fire Gina Carano, proves the comparison to WW2 Germany that Gina makes to be 100% correct. They hate her for her opinion and believe she does not deserve a job or even to exist in their society.
Those are not the same thing. That is she doesn't deserve her very public job, which gives her an enormous platform. Yeah, that's, I think, pretty reasonable. Let's get her fired so that there's consequences to her actions, so that she's not on a show that children watch. Okay, sure. No one's saying let's have her hung or hanged. Someone's going to get upset about the grammar of that. Hanged, sorry. Oh, they're tweeting to get me fired. That's the same thing as being a Holocaust victim. It's like their argument to protect her is like, well, what she said is fucked up, but also I agree with it 100%, and it's clearly true. Because she lost her job. You know, if you look through history, the first thing the Nazis did when they took power is they took all of the Jews out of Star Wars. This is the first thing they did.
It's absolutely how these weirdos are reacting. Discussing film. Hashtag fire Gina Carano is trending worldwide on social media after Gina Carano shared a disgusting post that compared being a Republican to being, on the receiving end of WW2. Now,
on the receiving end of WW2. So this is one of the things about Jeremy's content that is very funny, is that he doesn't like to use words that will get him in trouble on YouTube, this free speech maverick. And so one of the things he won't say is being a Jew during the Holocaust, because that might get him demonetized. This is him standing up against the totalitarian PC fascists, and he's afraid to say the word Nazi on his stream.
A spicy comparison? Yeah, I'd probably say that. But
oh, that's brave of you.
I mean, this coming from the same people that call Republicans. It's so funny. Like, the hypocrisy is mind-blowing. I'm offended by a comparison somebody made to the bad guys from WW2, signed the people that call everyone they disagree with the bad guys from WW2.
Okay, so it's worse to say that you are like a Jew in the Holocaust than it is to call someone a Nazi. It is self-evidently worse. Because to call someone a Nazi is to, like, say you are doing things reminiscent of what the Nazis did. I want to stop that. To say I am like a Jew in the Holocaust directly undermines the severity of the Holocaust. You are saying that your pain for being, like, complained about on Twitter is the equivalent to people watching their friends and family be murdered industrially. It is self-evidently worse.
WW2. Gina shared, Jews were, they, I want to keep this family friendly. Bad things happened in the streets, not by the bad guys from WW2. And
fucking family friendly. Like, it's disgusting.
soldiers, but by their neighbors, even by children. Because history is edited, most people today don't realize that to get to the point where the bad guys could easily round up thousands of those people, the government first.
It's really interesting to me that he's very comfortable calling the Nazis the bad guys, but not so comfortable calling the Jews good guys. That's a little telling.
Made their own neighborhoods hate them simply for being Jewish. How is that any different from hating someone for their political views?
I feel like I'm going to have to keep stressing this. One way that it's different is that shortly thereafter, what they did was they murdered 6 million Jews. And so far, at least, we haven't been seeing murders of Republicans on an industrial scale. And also, no one's advocating for it. So that's one difference. That's one difference, I would say. Maybe that's just me.
It's a little spicy, but it's a comparison that you can make. And
also, he uses Twitter in day mode. Of course he does.
Look at how these people are reacting. They want her gone. They want her off the show. They want her off social media. Make no mistake about it. They want her deplatformed. They want her to never be able to work again. I mean, No,
I don't think anyone is saying they want to remove her legal ability to work again. I think people are saying they don't want her on the children's television program where she currently works, where she works on a television show for 8-year-olds. She probably shouldn't have that job.
So hilarious that the same morons that whine about misusing the bad guys from WW2 are the same people that constantly call everyone they disagree with. You see Heels versus Babyface singing. Sadly, Fire Gina Carano is trending again from a bunch of cowards who hide behind the shield of air quotes diversity to disguise their own disgusting prejudices. Hashtag we love Cara Dune.
Prejudice against whom?
Importantly, hashtag we love Gina Carano. Again, tweet this video out using both those hashtags. Fire her to megastardom where she belongs. Tim Young, I said, saying here. Gina Carano, agreeing with her. And Joe.
You already read this tweet. You already read this tweet. And you just you don't even mention, I already read that. You just he's agreeing with her.
Carano is great at what she does, and her fan base proves that. What Twitter is telling me, none of that matters if she doesn't get her thoughts in line with theirs. Hashtag find a Gina Carano. Nope, I support her right to freely.
But see, here's the thing. You can say anything you want that's against the popular consensus, right? For example, I fucking hate Baby Yoda and I want to kill him. No one is trying to get me fired for that. No one's trying to get me kicked off of my platform for saying that I can and will destroy Baby Yoda. I will watch the life drain from his beady little black eyes. No one has a problem with that. Specifically, the thing that they are mad about is the incredibly fucked up thing that she said. The incredibly fucked up, bigoted thing that she said.
Really speak, shame on those attacking her again. Bridget Gabriel, the fact that hashtag fire Gina Carano is trending because she pointed out how conservatives are being otherized is pretty sad, honestly. These morons are literally proving her point. It's okay for the left to scream at Republicans.
See, it would be proving her point if what she had posted was just I'm a Republican. Hello, it's me, Gina Carano. I'm a conservative. I like conservative shit. And then people were like, well, we got to get her out of here. She can never work again. That would be proving her point. No, if a liberal person had posted this, it would cause just as much of a shitstorm.
Are all bad guys from WW2 for years, but the moment someone notes that the left are the ones behaving like the bad guys from WW2, they actually behave like them and want to cancel the person. Hence the hashtag fire.
It's unbelievable that he's trying to pass this off as this is what the Nazis did. What the Nazis did was they complained about people publicly. What the extent of the reason Nazis are a problem is because if you don't think like they do, they will bully you on Twitter.
The comparison, she isn't literally saying that they were the Jews, but they were saying that
she is. It says right here, her question, how is that any different from hating people for their political views? She is exactly saying that. Here it is. It's written down. She wrote it down, and then she posted it on the internet for people to look at. So yes, she is.
They were otherized. They were seen as...
You can look at this. You can read that tweet, Jeremy. In what world is the historical genocide an appropriate metaphor for being criticized by Twitter accounts? That's a tweet you could read out. Why not read out that one, Jeremy? You could respond to the people that disagree with you instead of just reading tweets by people that already agree with you and going, yeah, that makes sense to me. Why not respond? See, like this is what I'm doing, for example, is you disagree with me on this and I'm arguing with your video, right? That you could do that.
Inhuman, which justified everything else that followed. That's literally the playbook. And that's what they do. That they dehumanize you if they don't like your political opinions, which makes it okay for them to attack you in the street.
How has she been dehumanized? What have they done to dehumanize her? Explain how that has been done. Because it is my opinion that people who don't act on the midichlorians on Disney Plus still are human. That they're still human beings. It's just that her actions as a human being are shitty, and so they don't want her to work on that television program that children watch.
As I experienced firsthand when a psychopath who doesn't like my political opinions thought that they could do that. This is a very real thing.
Not going to elaborate on that?
On Twitter.
Can anyone explain what he's referring to there? Because I know that there's been a few times when this fool has been canceled. My understanding was that it was because he sexually harassed Magic the Gathering players. Wasn't that the thing? Or he was shitty to them in some way? Like he's calling out Lance from the serfs. He called him a psychopath. Also, he called him a psychopath mere seconds after he complained about people who disagree with you being dehumanized on the internet. I know that, not to say that people who have antisocial personality disorders aren't human, but he is using it as a term to dehumanize people. I think we can agree on that.
Twitter can't possibly fathom exactly how they are proving her point. And you know what the saddest part about this is?
What's the saddest part?
The saddest part about this is it's gonna work. I mean, there's just no way that Disney's gonna continue to there's no way that Disney's gonna continue to endure this call for her to be fired. I just don't think they will back her.
Disney cannot endure this. Oh, how can they withstand the power, the unbridled fury of some people on Twitter, this multi-billion-dollar media corporation that could buy and sell Twitter several times over?
I don't think that it is quote-unquote in their financial best interest to do so, and then they're going to can her.
So why shouldn't they then? Do you think that they should have to spend the money to keep her? If people don't want her on the show, do you think that Disney should be forced by law to keep her on the show?
She'll be blackballed from Hollywood because that's how this works. She's not allowed to have an opinion. You know, we want women to be in positions of power and to have platforms, but only women that say the things that we want them to say.
Look at this woke feminist analysis. Finally someone standing up for women. This is what I come to Jeremy for. Because he's always standing up for women. And also he did make a video recently saying that we shouldn't cancel Joss Whedon. But the thing you have to understand about Jeremy is that he just respects women so much.
We want women to have more roles in film, but only the ones that have this one particular lockstep ideology with everyone else in the area. It's absolutely hilarious how sad these individuals are.
It's hilarious. It's hilarious. Like, I'm not upset. I'm laughing, actually.
I want to give my support to Gina Carano, and I'm sure if you tweet at her and say some kind words, even you know, just a kind word here and there. I know she reads Twitter, and these people are just sad individuals, and they want everyone else to be just as sad and pathetic as they are. I hope you enjoyed this video. Hashtag, again, tweet this video out saying hashtag we love Gina Carano, hashtag we love Cara Dune. Let's get some positivity going. I hope you...
Let's get some positivity going for once. I'm sick of all this negativity from the sad, miserable people who are just the worst. I can't stand their negativity. There's something so transparently mercenary about the way that he makes his content, because it's like he won't say any words that might get him in trouble while the whole time complaining about political correctness. So he's not like living his values. And at the same time, he like doesn't do anything. He just kind of just reads tweets that other people wrote. And at the end, he like begs everybody to like start a social media campaign and link back to his video. It's just like you can, it's just, and pardon the expression, it's slimy, isn't it? Like it's, I know that's rich coming from me, but okay. Now, there's been an update to this story. You see, after he made that video, for some reason, even though he tried to keep it positive, those SJW monsters dehumanized Gina and got her fired from the job that is her human right to have. Because everybody should be allowed to be an actor on Star Wars. But she's been fired from Disney Plus's Star Wars Solo story, The Midichlorians, which I have never watched. I don't know what it's about. It's some kind of Boba Tea. Some kind of Boba Tea man. I've never watched it because until they fire Baby Yoda, I refuse. But she's been fired. And here you can see more of his positive expression. Oh, and he's wearing his Respect Women hat. In and out lubrication expert. That's classy stuff. He's a federal body inspector, everybody.
To leave a like on this video. I need you to leave a comment on this video. I need you to share this video.
If you look,
I need you to, if you are a current subscribing member of Disney Plus, to tweet this video out.
Most of all, what I need you to, like, if you want to make a difference in this world, what I need you to do, I need you to share my content. And like, Jeremy, you can't be mad at me because I'm sharing your content right now. I'm showing it to everybody. So I'm doing what you wanted.
Under the hashtag cancel Disney Plus, as I have just done after the predictable, I predicted it just 2 hours ago, that the cancel culture in social media will get Gina Carano fired, and just that has happened.
Was that it?
This is disgusting. And the losers
he's right about that. It is disgusting. And I'll agree with him on that one. Here's an example of what's disgusting about it is this. I'm just going to keep this tab open and keep referring to it, I think.
Celebrating it now. Acting like, well, she did it to herself. I mean, you can see all of these pro-censorship losers like Blue Ray Angel. Gina Carano got you all got me fired from The Mandalorian, all of us. You did it to yourself. All of these people.
No, but because it's a line from Disney's Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones.
Calling it abhorrent and unacceptable social media posts.
They put that in quotes. They're quoting somebody. They're probably quoting the press release that stated that she got fired.
No. There is absolutely zero chance I'm watching The Mandalorian anymore at all.
Folks,
period. This
is how committed he is to free speech. He's going to stop watching the Boba Fett show where with that all of his favorite action figures are in, because he's so mad that they fired the lady. That's bravery. That's courage. That's grace, honestly.
You can watch, and I'm not paying for Disney Plus either,
No.
and you shouldn't either. This is absolutely pathetic. It is absolutely cowardly.
Yeah.
And anyone supporting this is a loser. And every one of her co-stars is quietly sitting there thinking like, boy, I'm sure glad I'm part of the same weirdo freaking cult that everyone else is.
How is this not censorship? How is like saying nobody should watch this because I don't agree with its political views. Everybody should stop paying for this. Everybody should get rid of it because it did something I don't like politically. How is that not censorship?
That's exactly what just happened to Gina Carano. Variety reports Lucasfilm drops Mandalorian star Gina Carano following offensive social media posts.
Oh shit, he read it in a stupid voice. That means what they said is done because of the way he read it. Fucking the rhetorical genius of this man.
Gina Carano is not currently employed by Lucasfilm, the company said in a statement Wednesday after controversy erupted over the Mandalorian star's social media posts. Gina Carano is not currently employed by Lucasfilm, and there are no plans for her to be in the future. A Lucasfilm spokesperson said in a statement, nevertheless, her social media posts denigrating people based on their culture and religious identities are abhorrent and unacceptable. I'm not exactly sure what this is in reference to.
Well, it's probably, Jeremy, if I had to guess, it's probably in reference to this when she compared like people actively being beaten and murdered to being criticized on Twitter. I would argue that that's a form of denigration because you're basically saying that your life being taken away from you is the equivalent of someone being mean to me on Twitter. It's pretty denigrating. Wouldn't you agree?
Carano shared several offensive Instagram posts on her stories Tuesday, including one that likened contemporary political differences to the treatment of othering in WW2. This is a sentiment that...
You know, it's funny that he uses the word othering because he won't even say the name of the group of people that is affected, which I would argue is pretty othering. It's pretty othering that because they were the victim of a genocide, you refuse to speak their name, the name of that people. You called them those people in the previous video. That's pretty othering.
I agree with. This is just how it happens. They other you so that you're not a person they have to think about as a human, and then they can justify to themselves the inhuman ways in which they treat you.
Where in this? I must have missed a step here. Where in this does it say that she's not human?
Lies that they are willing to make up for you or against you to accomplish their end goals. See, once
Such
you
as
humanize somebody, then it's just a matter of what's the right tactics. Because
please provide an example of this dehumanization, Jeremy. Like, what did they do to dehumanize her? They said, oh, the thing she did is disgusting. Humans can do disgusting things. You should take a look at my bathroom sometime.
Because there are no wrong tactics when you classify everyone as an evil bad guy from WW2. This is absolutely disgusting.
Again, there are no bad tactics when you classify someone as a Nazi. They asked for her to be taken off of a children's television program, Jeremy. She's not being tried at The Hague.
And look at all these losers
These
celebrating this.
losers.
Tim Young saying Disney will get rid of Bill Burr next because his stand-up isn't woke enough. They can't stop with Gina Carano. Get in line with leftist ideology or you're canceled. Gina Carano.
Leftist ideology, for example, don't do the Holocaust.
Cronin has been reportedly fired. If true, who? I'd love to know that source. By the way, we're getting an official comment. Well, it has been official.
Again,
and
he's just reading tweets. I'm making my content wrong. putting in work and editing and writing scripts when you can get 1 million subscribers just reading tweets and kind of getting so angry you have trouble breathing.
Why celebrate this? You shouldn't be celebrating anyone losing their job for the most part, and especially one that you could have just, I don't know, not followed her on Twitter. You could have not been triggered by her posts.
Yeah, just don't get upset when she says these upsetting things. Obviously, it's really your fault.
This is really, truly disgusting. This is exactly what she was saying. You get that, right? You get that was her point, that the media dehumanized people back in WW2 and propaganda did so that...
Yeah, they did. For example, like they would call them literally subhuman, and they would argue that they have like inferior genes that make them evil. Can you show me an example of someone saying that about her? Can you show me anyone who said that she's like beneath human and genetically inferior and must be purged from the human race? Can you show me an example of that? Because that would, if someone did that, I would say, well, that sounds like Nazi shit. Then, yeah, we probably shouldn't be letting them do that. I would be kind of on her side then, but I haven't seen that.
It was easier for everyday people to justify treating you poorly. That's exactly, by the way, co-signed by the same people who call everybody the bad guys from WW2. If you're celebrating this, all you're really doing is outing yourself, to be one of the most disgusting humans alive. And look at all these losers. Like,
one of the most disgusting human beings alive. Worse than any of the people involved in ongoing ethnic cleansing. Worse than serial killers. Worse than child abusers. No. You celebrated when a rich person got fired from their job on a children's TV show simply for implying that the Holocaust is kind of a trivial annoyance. How dare you? How do you sleep at night?
This is not, this is the least, how would I say, the most disingenuous representation of what she said. She wasn't comparing being a Republican to being a Jew during WW2.
Yep, she was, once again. How is that any different from hating someone for their political views? How is that any different, according to Gina Carano? She's saying it is the same. It's a rhetorical question. Can you show me how it's different, is what she's saying, implying that it isn't different. It's the same. She's saying it's the same thing right here. You can see it. I put it on screen for you. It's right there.
She was talking about how they othered you, but they're fine.
She was talking about how they othered you to use it as a comparison of how the Nazis othered Jews before the Holocaust. Yeah. Boy, you're such a fucking dishonest piece of shit sometimes.
Twitter's fine standing on 6 million graves to get somebody canceled, though, right? They're fine.
Twitter is the one that's invoking the memory of the Holocaust inelegantly here. Yeah, Twitter is the one that really brought that into the conversation. It's not the woman who said that, she too knows their pain, for she has been dehumanized when someone said she probably should delete that tweet. When you tweeted hashtag not a good look at me, I knew how Anne Frank felt.
Fine standing on 6 million graves to get somebody fired from a job that they don't like, to get somebody banned from Twitter that they don't like. This is absolutely ridiculous. These people were never really offended by this. They've just been lurking, waiting, plotting, lying.
Yes. Soon. I've been waiting for my chance to strike at Gina Carano. Just because I hate seeing cool shows on Disney Plus. And the minute she gave me an opening, I knew I could get her fired. Like, what, why? Why would people simply be waiting to attack this woman? For what purpose?
Openly doing everything they could to smear Gina Carano and have her blacklisted from Hollywood.
Yeah, you can see some examples of the smears that they're doing when they say that here's what she did, and here's why she got fired. What they're doing, and it's the oldest trick in the book. This mainstream media bias. This is what they do: is they accurately describe what happened, but they don't frame it in a way that makes them look like the good guy. It's disgusting. I don't know how they get away with it.
There's literally almost no chance at all that she'll ever work in Hollywood again because, again, her post.
There's no chance she'll ever act in Hollywood again. Remember that statement, because that one's going to age real well. Just remember that he said that, and just keep that one in your back pocket. She's never going to act in Hollywood again. If you get kicked off a television show, that's it for you. You're done. Show me one person whoever got canceled by the woke, outrageous Twitter mobs and then got work again. Ever.
It's in spirit, it's correct. And now Disney has effectively listened to social media outrage culture and fired somebody for it. Now they did this with James Gunn. They brought him back. They're not bringing her back. How
do you know?
And now that she's fired, I promise you this: I will never pay for another Disney product in my life. Oh, I'll consume it probably, but I'm never giving you a dime of my money. If I want to watch something for critique purposes, I'll find a way. It's interesting that Disney forgets that there are many ways to enjoy programming without.
He can't even imagine a world where he doesn't watch Star Wars or Marvel movies. I'll watch them, obviously, and I'll critique them so that I'm giving them free advertising on my YouTube channel, but I'm not going to pay for them like I was before. Checkmate, Disney.
Having to give Disney money. They fired Gina Carano for insensitive social media posts or posts that went against the mainstream narrative. But they're fine filming in a country with literal camps. Disney didn't care about the
America?
The actual literal camps that are in China where they filmed Mulan, but they care about these.
You don't care about the camps that are in your country. So what's the difference?
Camps, apparently. This is absolutely ridiculous. And if you have any scruples at all, you'll cancel Disney Plus and you'll let them know that this is not okay. And no, I don't want, this isn't even a bring her back thing, because she's not going to get brought back.
Never.
There's zero chance Disney brings her back. There are
Zero
no amount
chance.
of Disney Plus cancellations that will bring her back. But think about where you spend your money. Think about.
This is how lazy this guy is. He can't get rid of the download bar. He can't just press the X and get rid of the download bar before he goes live. Oh, I've been covering up his wonderful face. I'm so sorry. Let me fix that. I'm so sorry. I've been depriving you of his wonderful facial expressions. Well, I don't want to cover up his social media plugs, because that's not fair to him. So I'll go over here.
About who you're giving your money to in times when things are tough. Do you want to give it to somebody as hypocritical and greedy and unaccepting of other, diversity of thought?
They're hypocrites. Because Disney, they fired this woman because she was sorry that her politics weren't woke enough, but they'll film in China, which is why I'll never give my money to them. But if you look behind me, you can see like dozens of products manufactured in China that I bought for fun.
Opinions that would bend the knee to cancel culture? Do you want to keep giving them your money? Cancel this stuff tonight. Post it on social media. Hashtag.
The only way to stop cancel culture is to cancel them tonight. Cancel it all to prevent the rise of cancel culture. In order to stop cancel culture dead in its tracks, we all have to cancel our Disney Plus subscriptions because they did something we disagree with politically, and that will fix the problem.
Cancel Disney Plus. Get rid of it. This is ridiculous. I'm going to have a lot more on this tomorrow, I'm sure. This is disgusting. Please send Gina positive vibes.
He knows that he can't just say, like, oh, I'm not going to watch any of this shit anymore. Because, like, so much of his identity is tied into, like, the media that he consumes. Like, this broad geek culture that he has tied himself to. Like, he can't just say, oh, I'm done with it. I'm done with it because they pissed me off too much. Like a normal person would. Like, you can go out and do something else with your life. But, like, all he has is watching Star Wars, buying Star Wars product, then sitting down watching Marvel, buy Marvel product. Remember when you were 8? Like, if you were going to complain about Disney's hypocrisy in this situation, you might point out that, like, Walt Disney himself was famously anti-Semitic and Nazi sympathetic. But he goes with these, like, really weird controversies. And like, fucking Jeremy doesn't give a shit about Uyghurs. Like, let's be honest here. It's simply a way, not even for him to, like, prop up imperialism, because that would be disgusting on its own. He doesn't think about it in that terms. He thinks about it exclusively in terms of, like, this company makes Marvel and Star Wars, and that's how I relate to them. He can't think about it in terms of, like, American relations with China. It's such a myopic worldview based exclusively on the media properties for children that he consumes. And there's nothing wrong with watching Star Wars or Marvel. I like both. I've never watched the Midichlorian, but I like Star Wars. I like the laser swords and all of that stuff. It's very fun. It's some good, silly fun. No problem there. And I certainly like Marvel. I'm a big comic book boy. Sure. But, like, it's 16 videos in 3 months about this one woman from the Baby Show.
I really wish that all sides could come together against cancel culture, but they don't. Because just like everything in modern media, it has to be split down political lines, because that's the most profitable way to do it. Even myself falling victim to it at times in describing what happened to Gina Carano and blaming exclusively the left. Ultimately,
oh my God, he admitted.
Cancel culture does exist, regardless of the number of think pieces these morons put out and try to deny it. What Gina Carano faced was quite simply a targeted campaign to remove her that extended almost 6 months or more, and spiking several times, and finally being successful yesterday, February 10th. And if I can ask, please remember to leave a like, a comment on this video.
Please.
And if you haven't yet, I've been covering this since Jump Street. There's a red subscribe button down below the video. I hope today will be the day I earn that subscription. It's really, really helpful when my viewers who aren't yet subscribed do subscribe. YouTube sees that the channel is growing, and that would be awesome. Those celebrating her removal are the same that cried on Twitter all day long when James Gunn was removed from his position for making unsavory jokes. Nobody wins with cancel culture except those that are in power.
You were celebrating when James Gunn was fired. Jeremy, you celebrated that. You liked that, as I recall.
Right now, there's one side of the political spectrum that has slightly more power. That is, of course, the left, which is why you see Gina Carano.
Yeah, there's fucking pinko communists over at Disney have all of the power. Let me tell you, the left running the show. That's why you can't watch a television show without getting leftist values shoved down your throat. The other day, I turned on Netflix and I'm like, yeah, you know what? I want to watch one of these reality TV shows, and it was all about seizing the means of production. I'm like, I just want to watch rich people have drama, but I can't because it's all too leftist.
Carano being fired for making a totally reasonable point. Perhaps it is
What's the point?
Difficult. It is a risky thing to use. Obviously, the happenings.
Go ahead.
The examples that she used are dangerous.
Why is
but
that?
her point was
Jeremy?
correct. And
so just to recap, her point, just for those that are just tuning in, her point that was it was dangerous to invoke, but ultimately Jeremy thinks it's correct, is that it's the Holocaust is essentially like when people send you bad hashtags on Twitter. Is the take, and ultimately it's correct, even though it's a little spicy. You know what I'm saying? Frankly, it's brave. It's brave of her to do this.
The people that support this cancel culture, which is not everybody on the left, by the way, to be clear,
Thank you.
They twist and they turn and they remold the things that she said to fit their narrative. The narrative on Twitter is simply that, well, Gina Carano likened her receiving mean words on the internet to being somebody from WW2 or...
Yep, she did. Right here, see? How is that any different from hating someone for their political views? Right there. She did. It's right there. She did that, see? I put it on screen.
Gina Carano says all Republicans are like those that suffered during WW2. In fact, Angry Joe made the same idiotic point. The fact of the matter is these people are willfully ignorant. They didn't read her comment.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just reading it how there's a deeper meaning that I didn't understand. I'm sure now, having established this, what Jeremy will go on to do, and I've paused so that we can build up a little bit of, because this is going to make me look quite the fool when he does this, and I got to take my licks on this one. Right now, he's going to blow me out of the water, and he's going to explain what it is that she meant, and explain by showing it and going over it and explaining it bit by bit what it is she actually meant and why it's different from the interpretation that it would seem that I and Angry Joe seem to think it's based on the literal words that she said. Go ahead, Jeremy.
At no point in her post does she talk about herself or Republicans. She talks about
but she is
how
a Republican.
The othering of other humans ushers in being able to treat them in an absolutely terrible way and justify it, even feel good about it. The point that Gina Carano made was that those that suffered in Germany were for a long time subjected to consistent propaganda that made their neighbors and others hate them.
So that is the same thing. It's you're just framing it differently. She literally says, most people today don't realize that to get to this point where Nazi soldiers could easily round up thousands of Jews, the government first made their own neighbors hate them simply for being Jews. How is that any different from hating someone for their political views, right? She is saying these are the same thing, and they're not, right? Because the degree is wildly out of proportion, because the propaganda used to make people hate Jews was to say that they secretly controlled the world. They had all of the power. They were inferior, subhuman monster people that drank the blood of Christian babies. That's not what anyone is saying about Republicans. They're saying, boy, they have some worryingly authoritarian qualities. No one is saying let's round them up and mass execute them. And for the record, if one were to find an example of someone saying the people on the other side of the political spectrum have all of the power and they're exercising it to persecute you, it would look a lot like what you just said about the left having all of the power and making everybody line up in lockstep unison. So you're kind of the one doing the thing you're complaining about, Jeremy.
It made their neighbors and others not want to stand up for them. It made their neighbors and others persecute them. It made the acts that happened much easier. People think the events,
the acts that happened,
that everybody was just herded up overnight. That's just not how it worked. That's not how history remembers it, because what it was a sustained disinformation campaign that paved the way for this type of behavior. This is exactly the point that Gina Carano made. But because...
Okay, so Gerbo, you have to understand the difference, right? You have to understand the difference here. Because Pedro Pascal's, first of all, he's saying we shouldn't put children in cages. It's not controversial. I would say that's pretty much a more fair comparison. To say, well, if you'll notice, one of the things that's similar between that genocide and what's happening here is that they rounded up people and put them in concentration camps, which is in and of itself, even if it doesn't lead to outright exterminationism, a form of genocide. So like it's already like pretty rough, right? It's already a pretty good comparison, I would say. That's not the same thing as to say that like, well, I too have suffered like the Jews under the Holocaust. To say that like children being taken from their parents and herded into concentration camps, they have suffered some of what people suffered under the Holocaust. But to say that because people were mean to me on Twitter, I've suffered it too, these are not equivalent things.
People already didn't like her. It made it extraordinarily easy to just ignore what she actually said and say, "Mo Republicans." You know,
what about the people who already didn't like Pedro Pascal? Why weren't they out there? Why is it that she seems to attract this disproportionate hate, Jeremy?
Signed the same idiots that called...
Why am I taking him seriously? Like, I wouldn't go so far as to say that I'm taking him seriously, but I think there is something instructive in pointing out how completely dishonest he's being, and like his logic relies on a very surface level, like comforting feeling of being able to just say the right words and kind of just dance around your point. And I think to actually like look at it and point out what he's leaving out of the story, and like the fact that he just does that. And like, you want to know why this is worth debating? Let's take a look at the comments section. It's people agreeing with him. F Disney, they've already destroyed Star Wars. They just got the Mando on a silver platter, so I'm sure Disney is looking for ways to destroy that as well. Yeah, Disney. Why would Disney want to keep their successful television program? Men can't handle strong female characters. Men, give us back Cara Dune. She was awesome. Like, this is why it is worth talking about. This video has 112,000 views. It was posted earlier today. This man has 1 million subscribers. This isn't just the ramblings of some weirdo. This is the ramblings of some weirdo with an enormous platform. It is worth mocking.
Trump, a fascist, even though he got voted out of office and left, or that.
Yeah, but you might notice that one thing that happened after he got voted out of office was he told everybody, actually, those election results are illegitimate, and encouraged them to storm the Capitol so that they could violently keep him in power. So that's one bit of context.
That they call everyone they disagree with online one of the baddies from WW2. The double standard is hilarious. As you see on the right, Gina Carano's post using those events to make a political point. To the left, Pedro Pascal doing the exact same thing, using a picture
Same
of
thing.
camps from 1944.
It's the same thing. That she tried to get people to stop criticizing her on Twitter. He tried to get children let out of cages. I failed to see the difference.
And then a picture of kids in cages. By the way, this picture is not actually from America. I'm sure people didn't want to bother looking into that, but one can only assume
Where's
that
it from?
Pedro Pascal has some.
Is that true? Because if so, that's pretty funny. But also, you know that there are children in cages in America, right? Like, you know that that is a thing that's happening, even if that picture isn't of children in cages in America. Like, you do recognize that it's happening. But is that true? Is that photo from somewhere else?
Sort of force field around him, because they did exactly the same thing. In fact, Pedro Pascal, you can see here, is pointed out, my favorite part about Pedro Pascal's meme with the kids in cages is that it's a picture from 2010. Here it is being posted on Twitter by someone claiming it's Palestinian kids in Israel. Lol, it's from 2010 and it isn't even a cage. They're just hanging out at a soup kitchen.
Okay, so pretty big blunder on Pedro Pascal's part. Totally owned him. But it is worth pointing out that that doesn't change the fact that there are concentration camps where children are being separated from their parents. Like, that isn't just something he made up, right? Like, the picture is not of that, but it's still happening. Like, it isn't something anyone is denying. So, like, kind of seems like you're focusing on this fuck up he made, and not really addressing the substance of his point.
Again, nobody cares that Pedro Pascal literally posted fake news, but because
is it really news?
He is of the privileged class. He is of the correct mind. Make no mistake about it, okay?
Yum, 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 yum. Pedro Pascal with all of his privilege. Here he is. This guy. Here we're about to get some real intersectional analysis from Jeremy Hambley, everybody.
Gina Carano's firing was political in motivation and in execution. It was done by a company happy to film across the street from literal camps of Uyghur Muslims in China. This was done by a company happy to shrink John Boyega's image on a poster so they could make more money in China because they knew that the Chinese are racist.
Wait, whoa, hold on. Well, I thought your whole thing was that get woke, go broke. So they're doing all of this unwoke racist shit. Shouldn't you be happy about it?
This is all fine in the name of money. But once you go against the grain politically, okay, once you go against the grain, against the mainstream narrative, you become a liability. And the sad fact is, these morons on Twitter...
But like, Jeremy, until they fired this woman, you were okay with giving them money. You were subscribed to Disney Plus, even though they did all of that horrible shit you just said. It wasn't until they fired this woman that you were like, well, they've gone too far. Now they've hurt a pretty lady. It was fine. It was fine when they filmed their movie by the concentration camp, and it's fine that they did that racist shit to John Boyega, but now they hurt the pretty lady. That's it. They've gone too far.
Twitter celebrating this. These people might have a Disney Plus subscription that their parents pay for. They weren't the ones buying the merch. They weren't the ones buying the high-end products. They weren't the ones going to Star Wars Day.
They don't buy the good Star Wars products like I do. I buy the premium Star Wars product. These losers out there, these children watching The Mandalorian on Disney Plus, they're not buying the good shit like I am. So good luck, Disney. Good luck without guys like me.
They weren't the ones spending the real dough to support
real
Lucasfilms.
dough.
They aren't the ones.
There's no money in appealing to children. You got to appeal to the man babies. That's where the real money is.
Flying down to Florida to go to Galaxy's Edge or California.
Yeah, that's where
And
that's where Disney makes all their money. It's from adult weirdos flying down to theme parks. It's not families.
this will have a very real negative impact if those involved can have the strength of their convictions. Stop giving money to people who hate you. Just stop. And don't let these pro-cancel culture losers gaslight you into thinking that you're overreacting. It's quite simply this. I paid for a service for a product that I liked. You changed that product by removing Cara Dune. I no longer want your service. This isn't...
Well, they might not have actually removed Cara Dune. They might just recast her. But by the same token, Disney paid for a product, which is that they bought this actress to be on their show, and so that she would bring them money and good publicity, and then she started doing stuff that brought them bad publicity, and that would hurt the money. So they fired her. It's kind of a similar situation if you think about it. Jeremy.
Isn't the same thing. I had scores of double-digit IQ morons last night comparing canceling a Disney Plus subscription to cancel culture.
Oh, it's me. I made that comparison. And I have a double-digit IQ. Let's hear him. Let's hear this out. He's going to explain why it's different. He's not going to simply assert that it's different. He's going to explain why it's different.
It's nowhere near the same thing. I paid for Disney Plus because I liked The Mandalorian. I will no longer watch The Mandalorian, so in what planet would I continue to pay for Disney Plus? I should have canceled it a long time
But you
ago.
also encouraged everybody else who might have still wanted to watch The Mandalorian that it was their moral imperative to cancel Disney Plus. Actually, you just did it a couple of seconds ago. You said, stop giving money to people that hate you. You did act like it's a moral imperative. So you're kind of saying that people who want to watch it, even though they disagree with the politics of it, have like a kind of activism duty to not do that, which I would argue is the exact thing you're complaining about.
Ago, but I justified it to myself by needing to stay up on, the cultural topics for this channel.
Mm-hmm.
But that's it. And there are so many.
Oh no, I would stop watching Star Wars. I really would. I can't stand the things they're doing. But on the other hand, society needs me to be on the bleeding edge of culture to know what happened on the last episode of The Mandalorian.
Many people in the hashtag cancel Disney Plus trend. I want to see you post the receipts. I want you to cancel it. Look, cancel it for a couple of months. I guarantee you.
He can't
you'll
even
find
imagine.
something else to
He knows his audience will just not. They can't just stop consuming this. So it's like just for a couple months. Just for a couple. If you could just please try and stop watching Star Wars for a couple of months to teach them a lesson. Doesn't have to be forever.
to do. In fact, odds are you'll find something else better to do. Watching TV
Better than
is
watching TV?
is a way of controlling people. It's a way of passing propaganda. It's no good. We as Americans,
Your entire career is based on reacting to the media products that they put out. It seems to be your whole fucking background is full of pop culture detritus. You get the fucking Ghostbusters Firehouse Lego set behind you. You have 3 different video game consoles behind you. Maybe more.
watch way too much TV. We sit around, we get fat, we don't talk to our husbands or wives or kids that are sitting on the couch next to us while we all sit in front of the idiot box. Canceling Disney
I
Plus.
don't really feel like I do that. I feel like I do talk to my wife.
Is not an overreaction, and don't let anyone tell you that it is. Gina Carano has essentially been completely blacklisted now, being fired by Lucasfilm, smeared by Lucasfilm, And on top of that,
It's like that time I got fired from Pizza Hut. I was blacklisted from the industry. It's because if you lose a job, that means you're not allowed to get other jobs. Sorry.
being dropped by her agent, and perhaps most heartbreakingly, it is now claimed that Disney, in fact, did have a dedicated show. According to sources, Lucasfilm planned to unveil Carano as the star of her own Disney Plus series during the December Investors Day presentation, but scrapped those plans following her November tweets. Multiple Mandalorian spin-offs are in the works from executive producers Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, including Rangers of the New Republic, which could have
And
potentially
you're
starred.
gonna watch them all, Jeremy. You're gonna watch each and every one, and you know it.
Gina Carano. Look, I don't need to watch Disney Plus.
I don't
You don't
need
either.
to.
If you
I want
absolutely
to.
feel
I can
like,
stop anytime I want.
hey, I still want to watch these shows, there are creative ways to do so. If you
He's talking about pirating them. He's telling his audience to do crimes so that they can watch the shows without giving the money, which, you know, doesn't sound very conservative to me.
you want to keep it, that's fine. You don't have to feel bad about keeping it. If you got
Look. I want to see receipts. I want to see people canceling it. Stop giving money to people that hate you. Now, you don't have to cancel it. Don't feel bad. You don't have to take any action
kids that drive you nuts if you don't have some old style movies or something like that, or
kids
you're not
love
paying
old style
for it
movies.
anyway.
Mhm.
Fine, that's okay. But look what they did to Gina Carano. They fired her. They smeared her for making the exact same type of post that Pedro Pascal does. Mandalorian fans raised Pedro Pascal tweets amid Gina Carano firing. The Mandalorian star Pedro Pascal is to have a big week, expressing his support for his trans sister on Instagram, the announcement of a new TV role, and some Twitter drama in light of his colleague Gina Carano's firing. Some conservatives found this decision hypocritical, as Pascal, who is 45, received no apparent consequences for his comparison of Donald Trump supporters to the bad guys from WW2 in a November post, of course, which he subsequently.
Well, I think one of the reasons that I think it's fine to do that is because the actions of Trump supporters. Actually, he wasn't talking about Trump supporters. He talked about like the government. Like the Trump administration's actions, and the same actions that the Obama administration and the Biden administration did too. I don't think they're blameless, but I don't think that's the same. He's not saying, "Oh, Trump supporters put these kids in cages." He's saying that they are in cages, which they are, and that's similar to how the Nazis also did that. I think is his point. Pedro Pascal, if you're watching, feel free to correct me if I'm misreading.
Deleted. Pedro Pascal, who plays a Mandalorian on Disney Plus, was not fired for this post on Instagram comparing Trump supporters to the bad guys from WW2 and Confederates, tweeted one critic. Again, on top of that, he made the same type of comparison standing on those that died during this,
he was invoking their memory to avoid a similar tragedy from happening in the future. She was invoking their memory to deflect criticism on Twitter. That's why what she did is disrespectful, and why what he did. Although, admittedly, this whole posting a picture that's not actually of a concentration camp, that's very funny, and I'll give you that. That's very funny.
These events. The idea that the best thing to do is to ignore history only leads to it repeating itself. And it's almost like some people want it to. You see articles like this. Gina Carano's Mandalorian exit proves cancel culture doesn't exist despite what her fans say. Are you on crack? Gina Carano sustained multiple coordinated smear campaigns
Coordinated
on Twitter
by
over several
whom?
months. Yesterday,
Who coordinated them, Jeremy? That's a wild accusation.
Twitter made sure it was the #1 trending thing all day. Again, remember that trending thing is...
Yeah, Twitter looked over the numbers and they're like, finally, we can destroy Gina Carano.
manually curated, and that night she was fired. Are you joking right now?
Well,
was she fired for her performance?
It's the headline, and often writers don't get to control what the headline is. So you have to read what this guy wrote that to know his arguments. That's okay.
Were these far lefties canceling their Disney Plus subscriptions? No. They were whining on Twitter and not spending any money. Now, today, the people that actually spend money on Star Wars products are canceling their subscriptions, rightfully so. And I hope you post this video under the hashtag cancel.
You just said they weren't canceling their Star Wars. They weren't canceling their Disney Plus subscription, so they were continuing to pay the money.
Disney Plus, and you post your subscription. Hey, take a few months off. You're not missing much right now anyway. You can catch up on WandaVision in August. And then I bet you by the time summer rolls around here in the US, you're going to realize that you were probably watching too much TV anyway. And it's better at least.
So you're gonna read this? There's Jeremy, there's only 23 seconds remaining in the video. You're gonna look at this guy's arguments at all?
Maybe not give your money to people who openly hate you and will openly persecute people that might think like you. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you shared this video, and we'll talk to you again real soon.
I guess not. Okay, so let's go. Gina Carano, The Independent. Let's take a look at this article. Blah, 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 blah. Carano's political views are well documented. They can be understood via a quick scroll through her Twitter page or by Googling her name, possibly alongside the word backlash. Since first appearing in The Mandalorian in 2019, she has faced calls for removal from the series on a few occasions. Last September, there was a minor uproar over posts in which she seemed to mock the trans-inclusive practice of putting pronouns in social media bios and accused trans people of having abusive online representation. She later deleted one of the tweets and said that her Mandalorian co-star Pedro Pascal helped me understand why people were putting pronouns in their bios. I didn't know before, but I do now. I stand against bullying, especially the most vulnerable, and support freedom to choose. So it sounds like people complained about what she was doing and she realized what she was doing was wrong and she changed her mind. It's not really cancel culture. Then, months later, she faced further condemnation for sharing an anti-mask memes during the pandemic and for repeating Donald Trump's false claims about voter fraud. By the laws of our supposed cancel culture, she should have already been pariahed months ago. She wasn't even made to apologize. In an interview this January, she simply said, "I'm going to stick around, and if my presence bothers you, okay, I bring the fire out in people, I'm not sure why." So, what this person is arguing, and I don't think it's a particularly strong argument, is that if cancel culture were real, then she would have been canceled previously for the things that she had already done. I don't think it's a particularly strong argument, but it's a testament to the sheer offensiveness of her social media activity and possibly the cumulative stigma of several different controversies that Lucasfilm finally saw fit to draw the line. The insensitivity of likening her own situation, being criticized online, for spreading potentially harmful disinformation to the Holocaust was perhaps exacerbated by the U.S. far-right's relationship with anti-Semitism and neo-Nazi ideology. Carano's implicit support of Donald Trump calls to mind the former president's own history of anti-Semitism and his refusal to disalign himself with white supremacist supporters. It seems to me there is little reason to give her the benefit of the doubt when it comes to the anti-Semitic implications of her post. That I would agree with. It seems amusingly misguided for people crying cancel culture to turn their anger onto Disney Plus as if the streaming service were some kind of ultra-progressive force for left-wing social justice. Star Wars itself has a checkered history when it comes to racism and anti-Semitic tropes. The character of Watto, the hook-nosed merchant alien from The Phantom Menace, seems almost plucked from a Nazi propaganda playbook. Other aliens, the Neimoidian Trade Federation, Jar Jar Binks, have also faced accusations of racism and stereotyping. And this is some stuff that Jeremy already talked about, so you could argue that that is like evidence of their hypocrisy, but it's like conservatives use the word hypocrisy to cover up that like there's no pattern. Like they say, oh, it's so hypocritical that they did this here and not here, because like, yeah, because they're not doing the thing you're saying. Like they didn't fire her to be like woke bae. They fired her because she said a thing that pissed a lot of people off and it was bad for their bottom line. Disney does not care about social justice. And I'm willing to bet that if she had, like, later that day said, oh, hey, what I posted was really fucked up. I'm really sorry. I didn't realize what I was saying. I'll never do anything like that again, etc., etc. People would have still been pissed off, but she probably wouldn't have been fired. Oh, luckily we have a video about Disney's double standards. Here we go. Oh my God, why does he start all of his videos with really loud music? Hold on. Actually, I want to address this. I said this earlier, and I stand by it. Also, Jeremy, stretch the image out to the whole screen, for fuck's sake. Here he's comparing the far right, the MAGA chuds, to Nazis and Confederates, and that might piss you off. But like, that's not as bad as saying I have suffered like the Jews in the Holocaust. It's way less bad, like on its face. I don't think that even requires explaining, because to say that like you are doing the things that they did and that's a problem is not as bad, even if you're lying, is not as bad as saying, well, getting criticized on Twitter is basically the same thing as going through the Holocaust, because that minimizes what the Holocaust was. Again, putting people in concentration camps is similar to the Holocaust. It's one of the things that made the Holocaust possible. And I was in such a good mood. White people, you did not get to absolve people of racism. You did not get to point out their growth when they say Black Lives Matter after treating us as if we don't. You don't get to accept apologies on our behalf that shouldn't need to be said. And stop patting them on the back for doing the bare fucking minimum task of being decent and humane to Black people. Oh, sorry, I misread this. I thought she was saying white people were saying this to her. There's nothing controversial about what she's saying here. Nothing. Sorry, I have to go back to this. Okay, so if we accept that what she's saying is wrong, so do we accept the opposite premise, that white people do get to absolve people of racism? Do we say that white people do get to decide when people have grown, and that white people are the arbiters of when people are and are not racist? That white people are allowed to accept apologies on the behalf of Black people? Are we saying that white people should be pat on the back for being decent and humane to black people? Is that what you think? Because if not, if you wouldn't say that, then everything she is saying is like completely uncontroversial.
To prove that this was absolutely 100% politically motivated. Now, I'm sure you're aware if you're here on my channel.
Who is denying that it's politically motivated? What does that mean?
That I am a fan of Gina Carano. I'm a fan of Cara Dune and was a fan of The Mandalorian until last night when they fired a character that I really, a person I enjoy and a character I really like over partisan political.
They fired a character I really like.
And a Twitter cancel mob. The idea that people are so desperate to pretend that this wasn't cancel culture literally proves that it was.
How?
The idea that this wasn't because she was not an open leftist. Now, remember.
No, it wasn't. She wasn't an open leftist before. And then it wasn't until she did the thing, which I'll put it on. See, this thing. That's what they're mad about. It's nowhere in here does she say she's not a leftist. In fact, there's nothing about it that like demonstrates she's not, like she had already admitted she was a conservative long ago. Like, no, that isn't why.
Let's go to
Let's
probably
go back. Let's go all the way.
One of the biggest cancel culture scenarios was director James Gunn, who suffered cancel culture as retaliation for Roseanne being fired. That's exactly what it was. And if we go back to July 20th, 2018, the article reads, the open question now whether James Gunn will follow through on his plans. He tweeted to come to San Francisco Comic-Con. He's been removed as a director for Guardians of the Galaxy series after a batch of old social media.
But scroll a little down there, Jeremy. According to Fox News, they were posted because Gunn is an outspoken critic of President Donald Trump, and the effort was to knock him down a few pegs. What's interesting there is it kind of again undermines the narrative that all of this is because she was a conservative. Because here it is happening to some liberal guy. It kind of proves your point wrong, doesn't it?
Dispatches were unearthed that touched on areas like the P word and the R word in the latest shocking development in the entertainment industry. He can
barely contain his smile. This is the closest he's gotten to smiling in this whole thing.
From the Marvel Comics universe after a slew of social media posts he wrote before getting Guardians of the Galaxy surfaced. According to Fox News, they were posted because he is an outspoken critic of Donald Trump, and the effort was to knock him down a few pegs. Yeah, it probably was. This was the left canceled Roseanne, and then the right canceled James Gunn. It was awful. It was terrible. Now, look, I'll tell you this. I grew up loving Roseanne. There wasn't a more woke show on television when I was a kid, by the way. And this newest rendition was going to be even more woke. And the left still canceled her. The idea that I would never watch it.
Kind of like it has nothing to do with the politics of the show. Kind of like it's based on the individual's actions.
Show without Roseanne. But that's what happened. Except he was rehired just a little while later because Disney doesn't really care. Because
because he apologized like quite profusely. So that's one difference. So I guess if Gina apologizes and everybody who's mad at her says, well, what she did was disgusting, but she's learned her lesson, as everybody who defended James Gunn pointed out, that, yeah, everything he did was super fucked up, but then he apologized and said, I wouldn't do it again. That's why he got the job back. You can debate whether or not that's the right thing to do, but that's why. If she apologizes and then does not get her job back, then it's a fair comparison.
Has the right politics. How about Sky Jackson? the former Disney whatever, doxing a 13-year-old.
Former Disney
and
whatever.
causing people terrible outcomes. Now, this kid, by the way, had said some terrible things, but again, just not really Sky Jackson's position to be putting their information.
Who is Sky Jackson? Oh, it's spelled differently. So, if I'm reading this right, she hasn't worked for Disney since 2018. When did this story come out? 2020. So, what was Disney supposed to do? Retroactively fire her? Okay, so she was in Marvel Rising Operation Shuri last year. What were they supposed to do?
Doxing a 13-year-old and causing people
she is
terrible
18.
outcomes. Now, this kid, by the way, had said some terrible things, but again, just not really Sky Jackson's position to be putting their information out there. Under the comment he posted, let's not forget that you doxed a kid and is tweeting random stuff to make people forget. And she put out info on many people, which is also illegal, and states an apology that they're fine, or addresses the fact that she committed a crime multiple times. People talking about, if you remember that, Sky Jackson going on a rampage, posting everybody's addresses and personal information.
Yes, she should probably lose her job for that. You're right.
Disney was fine with that.
Were they?
Sky Jackson really get in trouble for exposing bad people on social media. The 18-year-old actress has made it her mission to expose bad behavior on social platforms after everything that happened this summer. And she was putting out addresses and locations of people. Yes, she absolutely could.
Was one of the people that she gave out the address of, was that the 13-year-old? Because, well, I don't really give a shit if someone doxes open white supremacists, quite frankly.
Here's a name, Hartley Sawyer. You've been exposed, putting out all these points, and then people listing their address.
Isn't Hartley Sawyer an actor?
This is down below. Her name is, Autumn Swatman. Her Instagram is this. All of this stuff.
I'm not seeing any addresses.
While maybe.
Also, please don't send me anyone's address. I won't be posting that. So, she didn't. So, you kind of just. Okay. All right. It's there on screen. Also, please don't send me anyone's address. I won't be posting that. These people have said horrible things, but posting someone's address is going a little too far. Let's hope they all live and learn from this situation and educate themselves. She must be stopped. She's posting their names, and if she gets her way, they're going to learn and they're going to change their behavior. This is cancel culture gone mad.
Rooted in, how do I say, good intentions. She was doxing kids.
But is what Sky is doing illegal? Is it truly doxing? Doxing is, according to the paper published by the Creighton Law Review, a form of cyber harassment that involves, quote, the public release of personal information that can be used to identify or locate an individual, such as the person's home address, email address, phone number, or contact information. While Sky isn't trying to provide enough information for people to find out where people physically live, people are concerned that she's still encouraging others to verbally harass others and put them in danger. On top of that, Sky is mainly posting information about minors. So,
yes, according to the paper,
it sounds like the answer to that question is
a form of cyber harassment that involves the public release of personal information that can be used to identify or locate an individual, such as a person's home address, email address, phone numbers, and other contact information. Her threads were absolutely full of this. How about
another word?
How about another Lucasfilm employee, Christina Ariel? Remember her from just a few weeks ago? White people, effing stop it. Your ism won't save you. Your ignorance is not an excuse. Just a reminder.
What's the problem with that? Well, again, I ask, should racism save white people?
reminder that white women are just as complicit in upholding and enforcing white supremacy.
Yeah. Jeremy? Yes.
What?
What do you mean, what? It's a perfectly coherent sentence. What do you mean, what?
What? I don't want to see.
Jeremy, do you really not understand that? White supremacy as an institution is white people holding down other people, making themselves the most important, giving themselves all the power and privilege. And this Christina Ariel is saying that white women are just as guilty of that as white men. So again, we have to ask Jeremy, would you accept the inverse premise that only men can be racist? Is that, if only men can uphold white supremacy, is that your position, Jeremy?
See one more think piece written by a white person about how they think all black people will vote for Kanye West. You sound dumb. Well,
It does sound dumb.
I didn't think anybody wrote that. The idea that this woman who has said some heinous things about, lumping white folks together.
No, she didn't. What are you lumping white folks together in that, like, all white people are white? Yeah. Guilty.
Fine. Never removed by Lucasfilm. In fact,
What?
the official Star Wars account tweeted out, "Our Star Wars community is one of hope and inclusivity. We do not stand."
You hear how he does a little lispy voice? He does a little lispy voice. Good stuff. Funny stuff.
For bullying, and we support Christina Ariel. Okay, but what about her disparaging remarks about white women?
It's not a disparaging remark about white women, Jeremy. It's saying that they're equally complicit as men in the system of white supremacy, which is not disparaging women.
Or the whites. That doesn't matter to
She
Disney?
didn't say the whites, Jeremy.
Okay. How about Pedro Pascal, the character from The Mandalorian, posted equating Trump supporters, half of this country, to people from the bad guys from WW2.
Trump supporters are not half of the country. They get like half of the votes because most people don't vote.
This is when Biden won the election. I mean, okay. And how about the other post that he put with the kids in cages thing? Pedro Pascal, Sky Jackson, Ariel, whatever her stupid name is, Christina Ariel, all these, James Gunn, they've all done heinous things online, but they all got either their jobs back or never lost them in the first place. Why do you think that is? Why do you think it's because Disney just really cares about people posting heinous things on social media? Or is it because, I don't know, perhaps they weren't of the right opinion?
So then, which is it, Jeremy? You're contradicting yourself. Is it that Disney very much cares about social justice, or that they don't care at all? Which is it?
This is what Gina Carano, if we go back to, this is back in September, Data Race put together all this, just the vile, heinous things people felt totally fine to say a complete stranger on the
I'm just hoping I see my name somewhere here.
internet, calling her, just insulting her physical looks and just calling her terrible things, making up lies about her. This is exactly what she was talking about in her post. Like,
it's exactly because like one of the things the Nazis did is anytime someone was transphobic, they were really mean to them. That's one thing. If you go back and look at Nazi policies, they were very woke.
Get that, right? This is exactly what she was talking about. It's the exact same stuff. They dehumanize you so that then they can come back and say heinous things about you. Make no mistake about it, Disney fired her because she had the wrong political opinions, not because
Why didn't they fire her when she said those things instead of later when she said the other thing? How come they didn't fire her about that? Because they could have if they wanted to. Jeremy
made spicy posts on social media, because if that were the case, Pedro Pascal would have been fired, James Gunn would not have been rehired, Sky Jackson would have been gone.
But they weren't.
Christina Ariel would be gone. So Disney is not in any way acting here in the best interest of keeping controversies off social media. It's entirely fine for them to go on and have people disparage half of this country and equate them to the bad guys from WW2. It's fine for them to have people on their payroll who disparage all white people in posts and calling them and white women.
No one did that.
That's fine.
No one did that, but that would be fine. Here's a spicy take for you, Jeremy. You love spicy takes so much. It's actually not the same thing to disparage white people as it is to disparage basically any other race, because white people have all the institutional power, right? So if a black person makes fun of me for being white, there's that might hurt my feelings, but there's really no way that they can hurt me on an institutional level. There's no way that they can cause me to lose money. There's no way they can cause me to lose prestige. There's no way that they can have me arrested or hurt by the state in any way. It's all fine. The reverse is not true, right? The system of white supremacy enforces violently upon other groups, right? That's why there's higher incarceration rates for people of color than there is for white people. Like, it is not the same thing. The problem with racism isn't that it's insults. It's that it has a material effect on people.
That's all fine. No matter how mad people get about that, it can trend for a day. Disney can get 1,000 emails. They don't care, because it is the winning political opinion.
So which is it? Are they bowing to the Twitter mob, or is the Twitter mob irrelevant? If indeed that is the case, Jeremy, then what is the point of having people do hashtag we love Gina and all of the shit you're trying to do if Disney doesn't care?
This was because Gina Carano was fired because she did not toe the political line. If she had posted things anti-white or anti-male, she never would have been fired. This is just a fact. I proved it to you. We have plenty of Disney employees who have posted heinous things and were never fired. In fact, publicly supported over the years. Absolutely disgusting behavior by Disney. They did Gina Carano super dirty, and she'll probably never work in Hollywood again. And that's a real shame. They've successfully branded her as an other. Her agencies dropped her, and people, losers, are actually celebrating it. Please make sure before you leave this video that you leave a like, you subscribe, you comment, you consider sharing it. I want Gina to know that there are a lot of people that support her specifically. And for me, this isn't about the culture battle. This is about supporting Gina, who was clearly wronged, and
this isn't about the culture battle, okay? This is about my good friend Gina, who will see the video and know that I, some weirdo on the internet, have her back, right? And I swear to God, I will cancel my Disney Plus subscription for months. Months. I will encourage everyone to do so unless they don't really want to. That is the length I'm willing to go to defend Milady's honor.
Standard that exists from Disney very clearly in the public eye. I hope she sues them, but she probably won't or can't win. And this is just a terrible, terrible thing to happen to someone that's been nothing but nice to me and the Star Wars
nothing
community.
But nice to me. This is breaking news.
Rachel says, hey, my friend thinks you're cute, but is hesitant to sign up for All Access. Can you give her 2 good reasons to sign up? 1 on each arm. Rachel, I already did the gun show. How many punches do people need?
This guy. Pin Shapiro is a waste of a perfectly good twink. And that ends the response portion of this stream.